Hi everyone, it's me, and today, Blair Witch Project. Let's start.
I just want to apologize and say that I'm so sorry for all of these theories. I never meant to hurt anyone. Never meant to offend anyone. Didn't mean to scare anyone. I'm so sorry. I'm also really sorry that I didn't bring any Kleenex because my nose is running like a mofo right now. So to anyone who I've ever offended... What was that?
Hello, Internet! Welcome to Film Theory.
Hello Internet, welcome to Film Theory. Then the bzz, bzz. Anyways, hi!
Show that's like unsolved mysteries for the 21st century. Speaking of things people haven't thought about since the late 90s, let's talk about the Blair Witch Project. Since the 2016 sequel to the movie is currently either in theaters or has been forgotten by history as a bland horror cash-in by the time that you watch this video. But the original was something special because it was one of the first movies that took advantage of the internet as a viral marketing tool. Blair Witch came out in the age before you could use Snopes to reveal that all those memes Uncle Joe posts up on Facebook are made up. So when buzz started going around that this found footage movie was real found footage, a lot of people were fooled. Some of the family members of the actors even got sympathy cards in the mail. And you can't...
My mom kept getting sympathy cards. What?
can't really blame them for being fooled either.
Sorry, your daughter was killed by a forest. No, come on. It's a film. It's a...
The makers of the movie made a fake documentary about the disappearance of the actors and set up websites with information about the names and places they made up for the movie. But I'm here today to clear things up once and for all. To tell you that not only is the Blair Witch Project a work of fiction, but that the Blair Witch herself is a fiction within that fiction. Throughout the movie, we're
Inception!
led to believe that these young filmmakers, Josh, Heather, and Mike, are being terrorized by some evil force in the woods, presumably the Blair Witch. But after studying the evidence, it becomes clear that none of the events are actually supernatural. Nope, the whole thing is just a setup for the two guys, Josh and Mike, to murder Heather.
Wait, so you are saying that in a film, it is a murder case and not a horror case? There is no witch.
I know, that is a huge claim to make, and I'm sure that a lot of you don't believe me. But let me lay down the evidence so you can judge for yourself. In case it's been a couple years since you've seen the Blair Witch Project, here's a refresher. Heather is a student filmmaker looking to do a documentary on the mysterious urban legends surrounding the town of Burkittsville, Maryland, formerly named Blair. She recruits her friend Josh to run the camera. Josh brings along his friend Mike to handle sound. Now, Heather and Mike have never met before, as evidenced by Heather saying,
I guess you're Mike.
and
How are you, Mike? It's nice to meet you.
when we see the first shots of him leaving his house. This is confirmed by Heather's journal, released in its entirety online as part of that viral marketing campaign, where on page 2 she mentions not knowing him. Meanwhile, we're never quite clear on the relationship between Josh and Heather. Sure, the movie reveals that Josh and Heather definitely know each other, but there's a little more to it than that. The initial concept for the movie had Josh as Heather's ex-boyfriend, and even though that didn't really make it into the events that we see on screen, Heather's diary does give us some hints about their history. On page 13, as they prep to go into the woods, she writes, quote, Josh doesn't listen to me at all, and he's supposed to be my friend. Mike is more respectful, and I don't know dick about him. A few days later, early on in their trip into the woods, she writes on page 16, Josh is always a surprise. So despite thinking they're friends, clearly Josh is antagonistic to Heather even before they're out into the woods and things start to go wrong. And to make matters stranger, neither Mike nor Josh is getting paid for their work on the movie. It's never mentioned in the movie itself, but Heather's diary fills in the details on both page 12 and on page 20. These guys are working for free on a movie that'll have them hiking deep into the wilderness in the cold and rain, all while carrying heavy film equipment. Remember, this was set in 1994. They ain't filming this thing on their iPhones, and it's not like Heather is some brilliant director.
Many of whom remain, either on this hill or in the town below.
Maybe Josh is doing...
Maybe you can have some transitions, some effects, or some slide ins, fade in, fade outs, or maybe some music.
it because he's a friend, but Mike spending a week with a
Zoom in, zoom out can also be possible.
stranger pro bono? It's just odd. Even some of the things Josh says on the first day of the shoot are just uncomfortable.
Should we all, like, cut our fingers open and bleed on it?
Cool joke, bro. Yeah, let's all bleed on the clapboard. But assume for a minute Josh did want to kill Heather for some reason. Heather says on tape,
Nobody knows we're out here.
so this project definitely gives him the opportunity, and in order to pull it off without getting caught, he enlists Mike for help. But obviously that's speculation. We need some evidence to incriminate Mike and Josh, and their behavior on tape gives us some pretty big red flags. First, Heather is the one who plans the whole excursion, and based off Mike's admission that the map looks like Greek to him,
This is Greek to me.
we would expect Heather to be leading the way. But in almost every shot, Mike and Josh are walking ahead of her, guiding the group as if they already know where they're going. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. A huge chunk in the middle of the movie is dedicated to arguing over their map.
Map.
A sequence that gets made fun of by everyone from CinemaSins to Honest Trailers because of how long it goes on. However, if you track the chain of events in the map handoffs, you see that something here is definitely not right. Let me walk you through it. The group has successfully filmed at their two desired locations and are headed back to the car. Heather begins to use the map to guide them along the shortest possible route back to where they parked. However, Mike and Josh start to cause a commotion over nothing looking the same as when they first hiked out.
I don't remember a portion of this from walking in from the car.
As Heather correctly explains,
That was the most direct way to hit our two locations. Now this is the most direct way back to the car.
and it makes logical sense. It's simple geometry. Point 1, point 2, hypotenuse. According to Heather, they're about 2 hours away from the car, and she remains confident that they can get there. Yet it's the guys who are unsatisfied, outright refusing to walk. Josh then demands to see the map.
Check the map.
Now, we don't see the handoff as they cut to them camping for the night, but the next morning, the map has gone missing, with Heather convinced that she gave it to Josh, saying it over and over.
Did you take it? I'm serious, I don't have it.
I gave you back the map, Heather.
I gave you the map.
I gave you back the map.
Josh, of course, denies it, and yet, based on the footage we saw from the night before, Josh was the most likely person to last have it based on him demanding to see it over and over.
Why don't they have a backup map? Why not a backup?
Give me the map. Heather, give me the map.
With the map gone, tensions are obviously high, and despite Heather trying to get them to continue moving in the direction they were headed, it's Mike, Mr. It's All Greek to Me, who determines which way they'll walk.
We're going this way because that's the way we've been going for a day. We're going this way and that's it. We gotta come across something.
A guy who, up to this point, has shown no enthusiasm for guiding the team. It's another odd decision. So now, consider the following. You're lost in the woods for days with strange noises happening at night and no map. Despite all of this, shortly after the map blow up, Mike and Josh start joking around like nothing happened.
Can we keep going, please?
Now we're gonna chill out.
An emotional shift so unwarranted and so abrupt, Heather takes notice and gets suspicious, specifically calling out,
I thought you wanted to get to the car.
and
This just seems like you guys are having just a little bit too much fun for my taste.
It's very troublesome when you are going to a place that is very ulu, okay, like very secluded. No one know where you are. And it's always good to have a backup plan B or plan C or plan D.
jump forward a few minutes and we have Mike revealing that he kicked the map into the creek.
It was useless. I kicked that into the creek.
What? What? But while everyone in the movie and in the audience are thinking what a dumb move that was, it's the logistics of this that are really telling. Mike is not the map guy. As we hear repeatedly through the movie, it's Heather who keeps the map in her back pocket at all times.
The map is in my pocket, you're gonna have to wait a second.
So there are only two ways he could have gotten the map. One, stolen it from Heather's back pocket in the middle of the night where she keeps it, or two, gotten it from Josh after he knowingly kept it during the last map check. Option one comes with a bunch of implications we'll talk about in a minute, and option two would mean that Heather was right. The map was in Josh's possession, and Josh is just lying to her face about it. It also means that Josh is complicit in losing the map. But there are two last huge details from this section before we move on. As soon as the map goes missing, Heather demands the compass.
Give me the compass.
Who has the compass? Mike! And before Heather can hold on to it, Josh immediately demands it away from her. In other words, their only other navigational tool is constantly controlled by and manipulated by the two guys.
Why don't each of them have 2 compasses? So there'll be 6 compasses, just in case one goes haywire.
and not Heather. And as one last nail in the coffin, the three had also decided to just head south, following the creek until they hit something. If years of watching Man vs. Wild has taught me anything, it's a good plan. It's probably one that Heather got out of the survivalist book that she had read prior to this trip, the book that we see at the beginning of the movie. And yet, despite everyone agreeing to this plan that surely would work at a certain point, at 42:22 in the movie, the guys just stop and alter course. Heather asks why they've changed up the plan and gets literally no response. They just decided to, and Heather has to be along for the ride. Again, what we're seeing is the two guys subtly manipulating Heather to go in the direction that they want to go.
And they are in the wilderness. Nobody knows where they are.
To lead her around the woods and scare her for a few days,
Super dangerous.
eventually leading her to the murder house. But hold on, you might say. Sure, Josh and Mike might be behaving strangely, but what about all those supernatural things that are happening to them out in the woods? And it's a good question, except for one thing. There aren't any supernatural things that happen out there in the woods. One of the first big ones is the tent being surrounded by piles of stones when the group wakes up and breaks camp. Ooh, spooky rock piles. But Heather herself admits after the first night that she sleeps.
I sleep like a rock.
So what's to prevent one of the guys from building a couple of stone piles in the night? I mean, later in the movie, Josh full-on disappears without anyone in the tent noticing, proving that someone can come and go at will in the middle of the night without much trouble. Speaking of
without Heather knowing it.
leaving the tent in the middle of the night, when else would Mike have gotten the opportunity to take the map and kick it into the creek? The period between us knowing the map exists and the map going missing is a short window that takes place overnight. What about that bundle of sticks that shows up later? Well, it's just a bunch of sticks that you can build at home. And sure, it contains some hair, clothes, and teeth that are implied to be Josh's, but it's not like they're doing DNA testing out there in the forests of Maryland. If this was indeed a premeditated murder, one of the guys could easily have brought those things along. Fun fact, even for the movie itself, all the production team did was ask for a few spare pulled teeth from a dentist. It's just not that hard to get your hands on human teeth, is what I'm saying. Heck, I got a collection in my own house. For reasons. And how about those sounds at night?
Hello?
Well, it's worth mentioning that Josh is the first to hear noises during night one,
One of them could have possibly been an owl, but the other one was like a cackling.
yet does nothing to document them, and no one else hears them. It's also worth noting that at no point in the movie do the sounds remotely sound like a cackle. And seriously, if he had legitimately heard a cackle just outside of the tent in a haunted forest, you think he'd be that chill?
True. That is quite sus.
I heard a cackling. I would have in my pants.
There's no way. He's planting the idea of scary sounds into Heather's head. For the sounds in the forest later in the film, remember that Mike is the sound engineer, so he'd definitely have the skills necessary to rig up a couple audio devices outside the tent. Even the compass could be tampered with if they had a few neodymium magnets, and go figure what's commonly found in audio equipment like speakers and headphones. Neodymium magnets. And who's the sound guy again? Oh yeah, Mike, the guy holding the compass. And I'm not the only one who thinks something weird is going on here. Again, Heather is suspicious of their behavior.
Flames are licking you like the devil there, Josh.
In her diary on pages 18, 21, and 23, 3 times, she specifically calls out either how she doesn't believe that they're sleeping through the night, or how surprised she is that they're able to sleep in the middle of all this scary, life-threatening ghost stuff. And she's 100% right. It would be weird for anyone to sleep like that when their lives are on the line. But they know it's not their lives on the line, it's hers. So unless they have to react to some spooky stuff to keep the illusion alive, they're getting their Z's on. She even gets so close to the truth, making the important observation in her diary that the strange things only start to happen when she falls asleep. What a coincidence that is. Still, there are probably some skeptics out there who don't believe that Josh and Mike killed Heather. And for you, I turn to the most damning evidence of all, the ending. It's pretty ambiguous, so let's piece it together beat by beat. Josh goes missing, and a few nights later, Heather and Mike hear Josh's screams deep into the woods.
Josh?
Mike, who earlier has shown himself to avoid chasing after noises in the dark and has the strongest self-preservation instinct,
Michael, are you saying you're not coming down?
I ain't going down there.
leads the charge out of the tent, pushing Heather to hurry up and follow him.
Mike, where are you going?
In the pitch black of the woods, again, it's Mike who sees the house
It's a house.
and then a few seconds later goes inside without hesitating. When Heather shows some trepidation about going inside, he yells at her,
Come on, in the house.
Once inside, he hears Josh's cries, and Mike loudly shouts that he's headed upstairs
I'm going upstairs.
to find him, with Heather shortly behind. At the top of the steps, he stands there waiting. It's only once Heather is upstairs that Mike quickly changes his mind, determining that the sounds he's hearing are apparently from the basement and not the second floor. Loudly shouts
Wait, how do you even know the house have a basement? How? How do you know
out again that he's coming
it's a new house? How do you know that you have a upstairs in the first place?
down the stairs,
Come on, I hear him downstairs.
then rushes down, this time without waiting for Heather. And remember, this is all happening in a completely dark house that Mike has allegedly never seen before.
Not brightly lit.
Yet he finds the cellar staircase easily. We see Mike go down into the basement, and then the handheld camera is dropped, as most people assume Mike is attacked by the witch. From there, Heather catches up, sees Mike standing in the corner, gets attacked herself, and drops her camera. End of movie. Now, this whole sequence is suspicious for a couple reasons. Mike leading the charge at night is so outside of his character at this point, especially charging into what is obviously a murder house hidden inside the forest. He also seems very comfortable with the layout of said house, even though it's completely dark. And how could Mike mistake sounds coming from the basement as coming from the top floor? And also, why shout where you're going before you go there unless you're trying to signal where you're going to someone else? But perhaps most suspicious of all, if he truly got hit by something in the basement, causing him to drop his camera, why would he be well enough to stand in the corner and not respond when Heather calls his name? In fact, after decades of being tight-lipped about the end of the movie, it's a detail one of the directors, Eduardo Sanchez, called out when he did an AMA on Reddit. When asked what really happened at
AMA. Ask me anything.
the end, Sanchez doesn't give a clear answer, but remarks about Mike, quote, why wouldn't he turn to Heather's screams? Seeming to imply that he has the ability to turn around and just chooses not to. And it's a decision that would be difficult to explain until you consider it was part of Mike and Josh's plan. They would lure Heather to the house, get her to the top floor, as far from the cellar as possible, then Mike would create some separation by running away. That buys them time where Mike can go stand in a corner that Heather can see from the bottom of the stairs, distracting her and leaving her vulnerable to an attack from behind, an attack by Josh. Blaming it on a supernatural force that uses Josh's voice to lure people around the house, brings Mike downstairs, hits him on the head, possesses him to put him into the corner and stand there, while it goes around to hide from Heather so it can hit her on the head, murdering her, and then going back and then killing Mike again.
Occam's razor. Yeah, let's use Occam's razor for this.
Is actually harder to believe. A murder plot where the two guys are complicit is actually the simplest solution here. But there is one final piece of evidence that points to this not being supernatural forces, and that's the existence of the movie itself. The fact that the trio's footage was found indicates that people made it into the woods, found the murder house, and got back home safely without being accosted by any supernatural beings. The Blair Witch seems oddly selective about protecting her forest. No, no. She was an excuse for two young men to team up, scare and eventually kill a girl, and be thought dead, giving them the perfect escape for the perfect plan. But hey, that's just a theory. A film theory. And cut. I dare you to click on the Blair Witch stick man hanging in front of you to subscribe for more creepy theories just in time for October. I'm working on everything from The Ring to salad fingers. So prepare your pumpkin spiced flavored food, curl up under a good blanket next to the fire, and get ready for a scary holiday season. Click the button! You know what else is scary? Stupidity. That's why you should also click right here to visit the Wisecrack channel. They fuse education with humor to kill off the Blair Witch of stupidity. Alright, so that's a really forced metaphor. Just go and check them out. They help me research a lot of the episodes that you see here, so if you like film theory, there's a good likelihood that you're gonna have a scary good time over on their channel. If you haven't checked them out yet, carpe that diem, my friends. Seize the day. Though if you'll excuse me, we've had a lot of serious theories lately. It's time to do something fun for a change. More on that in a week.
Yeah! Thank you so much for watching this video. This video will be very unique and yeah, a lot of things to think about. If you do like this video, please remember to like, share and subscribe to my channel, and comment down below if you have any share of us. Don't forget to follow my channel, and I sincerely appreciate all of your support and encouragement for my work. Thank you so much, and I hope to see you in my next video. But hey, that's just a theory, a film theory, and cut. And I hope to see you in my next video. Bye bye! Don't forget to subscribe. Thank you so much. Bye bye. Thank you so much for the support. Thank you.